And then drawing the hands together in front of the heart. And together we'll lift our voices in one beautiful Om. Take a nice breath in. And bowing the head toward the heart with humility, surrender, and strength. And drawing the face to center. Good morning. Hello. So good to see you all. So, this weekend we have had a retreat in place that has been focusing on the concept of brokenness and the sacredness that is within the brokenness. And we've been talking a lot about the goddess Akhilandeshwari, she who is never not broken, she who is always broken, she who embraces her brokenness with a strength and with a power that we too are capable of, even if in most moments we don't believe we are. Akhilandeshwari teaches us so much. She teaches us that through her symbology, that we have the ability to control our fear, our ego. We have the ability to control our confusion. We have the ability to control our reactions and responses, no matter what comes our way. And we know that this is her primary message because when she is depicted on top of a crocodile. And a crocodile is very sneaky, unassuming, well-hidden threat. Typically, it's hidden under the water, except for its eyes, and you wouldn't know to look for them unless you know to look for them. And the crocodile approaches very quietly, and then when it's too late, it takes a hold of its prey, wraps it up, and spins it in the water until the prey succumbs. Our fear is like that. Our fear creeps up on us unexpectedly. And in a moment of utter vulnerability, it opens its jaws and it attempts to grab onto us and paralyze us and spin us into a world of confusion. When we see Akhilandeshwari, it's hard to say those two words together. When we see Akhilandeshwari, what we see is that she is kneeling on the back of the crocodile. Just kneeling. She has no reins, she has no harness, she has nothing that she's holding on to. She's simply kneeling in rock pose. And she has her hands in the mudras of Varada Mudra and Abhaya Mudra, the mudras of receiving and offering and fearlessness. And in that symbology, she tells us that the only way to overcome the chaos of the crocodile or anything else is to give and receive all fearlessly, and to have faith in your heart, faith in yourself, faith in the goodness of the universe, so that you can remain solid as a rock in the face of sometimes spinning, in the face of chaos, in the face of the unknown. She says we don't need to succumb to our fear. We don't need to succumb to our confusion. That there is a path of clarity and there is a path of courageousness. We just have not come to the point where we recognize that sometimes. Probably most of the time. So she tells us that our brokenness, our perceived lacking, is actually a sacred path to our own awakening. That if we can begin to see that the things we judge about ourselves, I'm an angry person, I'm a sad person, I'm a great person, that these things are stories. And they really don't hold a lot of truth. That in and of you and in and of me, that we are so much more than that tiny little thought could ever possibly depict. That tiny little thought, I'm an angry person, is so small, is so minuscule in comparison to who you are, that it can't even begin to touch you and the truth of you. So our perception of our flaws, such a limiting untruthfulness. But as a biological human being that is always changing, always growing, always learning, always forgetting, that this beautiful, chaotic dance that we are in called life, that in that dance, and because of our biology, we are in fact broken in a way that we oftentimes don't even look at, because we're so caught up in that little tiny story about being angry or being perfect or being lacking or being worthy or whatever it is that the mind and the ego are telling us. Because we're so caught up in that, we actually don't see the beauty of our changeability, which is natural to us as part of the greater nature of things. That, when I was born, I was a little baby. As a plump little baby, like every little baby, And when every little baby comes into the world, they are plump and full of love and snot and poop and pee and all kinds of amazingness, right? And over time I grew and I changed. And I went from being a plump little baby to being a string bean. Like, I shot up. I was almost 6 feet tall in 5th grade. It was crazy. I was in the 95th percentile for height, I was clumsy. I was always falling over my own 2 feet. I walked into a telephone pole one time and knocked myself unconscious. Seriously, unconscious completely. Yeah, talk about broken, right? And I kept growing and I kept changing, and my voice got deeper and my height got taller and my body got thinner and bigger and thinner and bigger and thinner and bigger and pregnant sometimes too. Yeah, no, so many talk about changes. Talk about broken. Oh my gosh, have a baby. And you will know what broken is. And I got older, and as I got older, my hips got wider, my skin a little less elasticity, my eyes got weaker, my hair got really gray, although that did start when I was about 15. And life has brought me things, and life has taken things away. This is life. And if I allow myself, or if you allow yourself, to get so caught up in one moment only, or 1 minute, we'll say, then the rest of that beauty escapes us. It's like driving at 95 miles an hour down a road that's lined with roses, but because we're driving at 95 miles an hour trying to get to one place only, the place of human perfection, which doesn't exist anyway, we miss all the beauty that lines the path. And Akhilandeshwari says, stop it now. Just stop that. Stop and see. Do you know why the sunrise is so beautiful? Because you only see a little piece at a time. If the sun just bolted up into that sky, I guess that'd be beautiful too, but in a completely different way. And you know why the sunset is so beautiful? Because it disappears one little piece at a time. You know why you're so beautiful? Because you arrive one piece at a time. And you know why death is so beautiful? Because we leave one piece at a time. And we witness that. And that is the sacredness of our brokenness, is that we witness it. Akhilandeshwari is very specific too. She says, when we talk about brokenness, of course I'm paraphrasing the goddess, so yeah, please forgive my flaws. But when we witness the sacredness of brokenness, it should not be an excuse for laziness. It should never be an excuse to accept yourself in a state of limitedness, because you are limitlessness. You are the embodiment of something that we don't understand. I'm the embodiment of something I don't understand. Not completely. But what we do know is that what is held within this physical realm has a mystery, a mysticalness, a magic to it, a sacredness to it that is beyond our comprehension. And we should bow down to that. Because what this body holds and what your body holds and what your body holds is the light, the love, and the energy of the divinity. And we should bow down to that with all humility, with everything that it brings. I had a beloved teacher one time who said to me, well, he said to the whole class actually, somebody asked the question, they said, I don't get this whole divine perfection thing. How is it possible that the divinity could be so perfect and then fracture itself through us to know itself? Why wouldn't it just be happy with its own perfection? I mean, right? Would you fall down and break your arm just to know what it felt like to have a broken arm? No, I don't think so. Yeah. Out of curiosity. Isn't that a great word? I mean, what would you do out of curiosity? Would you hike to the top of a mountain?
You might do something stupid.
What was that?
You might do something stupid.
You might do something, yeah, a little mindless, right? Absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah. Well, what he said was, imagine, the chocolate lovers in the room will completely get this, that the divine is chocolate. The best chocolate. The perfect chocolate. And that's all there is to be nourished by, is that chocolate. You're already making faces. So, the first time that you sit down to have that chocolate, it might be really wonderful. It's like that Belgian milk chocolate, the kind that is just so wonderful and mouthwatering. And you take the first bite and the second bite and the third bite. That particular meal might be absolutely beautiful. But then it's lunchtime or snack time or some other time. And you go and you sit down to experience that chocolate again. And that's the only thing that you can have, is that utter perfection. Yeah, you're shaking your head now.
You become dissatisfied.
It becomes blasé. Yeah, and it might actually even be what you might call boring after a while. And so the divinity in some moment, for some reason that we don't understand, awoke to its own perfection and said, well, how do I know I'm perfect? Well, I don't know. Let me make a whole unperfect world full of brokenness so that I can rediscover over and over and over again my own perfection, which is not a human perfection. It's a perfection or a completeness that is based in vastness, that goes beyond our comprehension. And so it's been explained by many teachers throughout the ages that the divine sees its own manifestation through our eyes, it hears it through our ears, it tastes it through our mouth, it smells it through our nose, it feels it through our hands, through our skin. That it feels itself, it knows itself. It's compelled to reawaken to itself over and over and over and over and over again. Through our life experiences, through our freedom of choices, through our stupidity, and through our intelligence. And in this way, it becomes a leela, a divine drama, a divine soap opera. Exactly. And when you look at it like that, right, let's just say, just leap in with all the faith for just 1 second and say, okay, it makes absolute sense, absolutely. No question whatsoever. Now, if you adhere to that, that you are the instrument, that I'm the instrument, that we are all instruments of divine knowing, how can you ever curse your brokenness again? Ever? Wouldn't you want to cradle it, to nurture it, to explore it, to allow it to manifest the greatest awakening in you? A, so that you don't have to experience so much of it, but more importantly, because it brings to you every opportunity to come to know your own potential. And your potential is so vast that it's unfathomable. It's like, I don't know about you, some of you are near my age, but when I was a kid, we didn't know how deep the ocean was. We didn't know. Jacques Cousteau, right? He was exploring the depths of the ocean. And he would have his TV show that was on weekly. And he would report back the mysteries of the ocean, And there were movies like Captain Nemo, right? Is that the right one? Yeah, and he went down into the depths of the ocean, and I don't know, did he make it to the other side of the world at some point or something? He popped up in China. I don't know. He made it all the way through. There was this concept of not knowing what lay beyond the beyond. And that's what our brokenness represents. I'm going to say this, take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't matter how the brokenness came to us. That is not the point. In the manifest world, the way our brokenness arrives to us, that's a matter of legality, that's a matter of sociality, that's a matter of anthropology, that's a matter of humanness. But when we look at our brokenness from a spiritual perspective, how it arrived to us is not the focus. It's what we do with it that is the focus. It's how we dance with it, how we move with it, how we heal from it, how we come into a deeper knowing because of it. That is the point. And Akhilandeshwari tells us, as does Durga Ma, Kali, most certainly. She says, there is no light responsibility here. That our brokenness is a huge responsibility. And that it requires us to sit with it and to contemplate on our own inner strength, on our own dedication, on our own discipline, on our own compassion, on our own acceptance, on our own sadhana, our spiritual practice. It requires us to sit with our own self-study, to look at our lives with open eyes, honest eyes, and to see and reflect on what must change at our hands, and to recognize what can't change, and to leave what can't change alone, so that we can more fully invest ourselves in the change that we can bring about through our own practices. So, for example, in what ways do you contribute to your own suffering? What storyline is going over and over and over in the mind, and you succumb to that every time? Oh, I'm not good enough. Well, there's that thought again. Well, okay, I know the thought is there, so I'm just going to let it take me for a whirlwind of a ride. It's going to whip me around like that crocodile spins its prey. Like it just spins it around and around and around until I lose all understanding of myself, until I'm back at step one. And then our shoulders go from being up here, face forward, to being here, hunched over, in a sense of hopelessness and despair. And she says, no. Yes, that is part of your path, but no, it is not your final destination. Pick yourself back up, kneel on the back of the crocodile, put your hands into your mudras, keep your gaze straight forward with compassion on the face, and ride the wildness until you have such stability that whatever happens around you, you have only equanimity. And in the equanimity, you can then have compassion for all beings. You can embrace your virtue. You can embrace the necessity of ethic in the world. And you can be the peace that is walking through the world. But until then, we're just like, you ever drive down the street and see one of those inflatable tall guys? It's like being tossed around by every breeze. What do you mean there's no parking space in the front row? What do you mean there's no tickets left for the show? What do you mean I paid for these tickets and the show sucked? And the person 3 seats down is wearing the same outfit. And the lead actor was replaced. It happens. We just went to go see the opening of Treasure Island down at the Fulton Theater. The lead actor was replaced. Oh, he was great, though. Doesn't matter. You know, they were all wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So this brokenness. Krishnamurti said, it is no sign of health. I'm going to paraphrase. Actually, no, I'll read it. He said, it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And the sickness in our society comes from the belief that you are permanently broken in a permanent way that does not meet up with the concept of human perfection. And that belief causes us to become fearful, confused, and violent. We are not permanently broken in a permanent way. We are constantly changing. That is our brokenness. And that constant change is sacred because it originates in divinity, not in a human concept of something that can't be attained. And because we're always changing, again, I was a fat little ball of poop at one point in time, you know. I mean, can you even imagine that? Like, our children can't imagine that. For those of us who have children here, right? Your child looks at you and thinks you've been like that forever. When my son, I'll never forget, and if he listens to this, I love you. If my son, I'll never forget when he said to me, you were never my age. He was like 4. You were never my age. Well, how do you think I got to be this age? And he just couldn't fathom. He could not picture that mom was once that age, you know. But as part of nature, of course we were. And we'll go on to change even more. And some of us will live to be very old, very ancient souls, who will have seen so much change. My Nana lived to be 96-ish. She lived at a time when there was no TV, no telephone. She drove a car once. She hit a tree. She never drove again. She took the bus her whole, from whatever point there were buses. She took the bus from then on, She got hit by a bus. She lived, but she was a little broken. She has her story. Has. So the point is, don't look at yourself as a reflection of the world around you. See yourself as a spiritual being walking through this world, rediscovering your limitlessness in every moment. A limitlessness that includes change and changeability. And therefore, a kind of brokenness that holds so much promise. Because someday, you'll have the opportunity to say, I was around when there were 8 tracks. I was around when I Dream of Jeannie wasn't in reruns. I was around when we had trees. I was around when we didn't have to wear smog masks. I saw this world when we still had bumblebees and honeybees. Yeah. There's so much to think about, so much to contemplate. But the one thing it should not do is take you out of this moment. If anything, the acknowledgement of the things that change bring us into this moment right now with a deep, deep heart of gratitude that we are here to witness this. In this body, with this mind, with this ego, through this spirit, that we are here. And it's beautiful, even though it's flawed. Even though it sometimes gets broken, even though it sometimes heals wrong. You ever had a fracture that healed wrong? Oh my God, I did. I had a broken wrist. It was a clean break. Well, it wasn't so clean. It was a clear break all the way through. And I had a lump like this by the time I went home, which I didn't go home right away because I would cut school. And I broke my wrist because I slipped on the ice and landed like this with my hands behind me. And I didn't really want to go home because I was afraid of getting in trouble for cutting school. So I hung out with my friends. What else do you do? Well, I end up going home at the time I would normally go home. And my mother, the universe has a wicked sense of humor, comes home from work early that day. So she meets me out the door. And her, with her eyes of a trained nurse, see that my hand is turning interesting shades of blue because there's no circulation going on. So she grabs my hand.
Oh my gosh.
And she says, "What did you do? Get in the car." She takes me to her orthopedic friend. Now I've got a fractured wrist. I'm broken. It's broken. It's very broken. And it's been 6 hours. So you know that it's healing incorrectly, out of alignment. So what do you think they do? They rebroke it.
In just 6 hours?
Yes, it starts to heal immediately. Yes, because they had to set it. But that's not the end of the story. Because, it didn't heal correctly again. And so within, I guess it was 5 days or so, they had to do it again.
Anesthesia, painkiller, something? No.
No, they had to hold me down on the table. 3 nurses, my mother and the doctor. And go, shh, and get it to line up right. And it was my right hand, by the way. So according to my nun teacher, my Christian teacher, I was definitely going to hell for that one. Because I broke the right wrist. It would have been fine if it was the left wrist. They would have just left that alone. But the right wrist. Yeah, so they had to re-break it. And at that time, it's still not an easy process, but at that time, it was not an easy process. And everybody's going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But how many times have you committed the same atrocity in your life that caused you pain and suffering, and you had to be re-broken 2, 3, 4, 5, 12 times? Yeah. Wasn't that painful? Yeah. Did you learn? Still in the process. I love your honesty.
Yeah.
We are all still in process. Yes, we are. We have not yet left the conveyor belt. We're still being assembled and reassembled and reassembled. I often wonder what kind of warranty we have. Yeah. So what questions do you have? What thoughts do you have? Yes.
If we're always changing, and if we're supposed to be acceptant of this change and growing, how come we get so upset when we get used to a place and it goes away, and when there's change around us? Like, we don't like the change that goes on around us, and we're supposed to be accepting of that in us. And
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. And there's more than 2 answers to that question, but I often find that the most succinct answers, I don't know, at least to me, there's 2 parts to it. The first is to understand that our ego and our free will is a consequence of our being born, of our being created. The human species, we got this really wonderful door prize. We showed up in this body and they said, here, have some free will. Have fun. And now they go to the Buddha, and the Buddha said, well, because we have this thing called free will, right? And so he sat with that for a long time, and he recognized that, well, a kind of a byproduct of that is that we then have the freedom to grasp. And grasping is the cause of our suffering. And we grasp at wanting things to stay the same or wanting things to change. But then things change, and we say, I didn't mean like that. I meant I wanted to change another way. And things change again, and then we get even more frustrated, and we're like, I didn't mean like that. And then things change again, and we're like just pulling our hair out because we're grasping at something we don't even know what we're grasping at. We grasp at happiness. What is happiness? We grasp at grief. What is grief? We grasp at wanting things to stay the same. And then we get all aggravated because things are boring, because they're always the same. So we want them to change. And then we grasp at the change because it's not coming around fast enough or the way that we envision it. And then we buy books about manifesting change.
Is this Leela coming in?
When it goes there.
Oh, man. Take this with a grain of salt. 98% of the time, that's a psychological issue.
Okay.
Small percentage of the time, we follow through. Small percentage of the time, we get it. We understand what that actually means. But most of the time, we're just grasping. I'm going to get this book so I can get rich. I'm going to get this book so I can get the house of my dreams, the car of my dreams, the spouse of my dreams, the lover of my dreams, the child of my dreams. the life of my dreams. And then you get some small part of that, and what happens? Oh, are you still happy? No, you're not happy. You're like, oh, now I want more, or less, or different. It's Elmo. Swami Dayananda. Swami Dayananda, whose Gurukulam is not far from here, and he teaches, and we have a friend who was very involved in his Gurukulam, Terence. Hi, Terry, if you're listening to this. And he said, Swami Dayananda explains it as such: you either get everything you wanted, less than you wanted, more than you wanted, or the exact opposite of what you wanted. You get Elmo. Yeah. The bus either comes exactly on time, and you're a little late, so you miss it anyway, or it comes late, and you're dissatisfied because you have to wait, or it comes early, and you're there on time, so of course you missed it, or it doesn't come at all, and you're sitting there waiting. But that's what life is. Life is Elmo. It's one of these four ways, and that's it. It's everything less, more, opposite. But even in the everything, be mindful, because you won't be satisfied there. Your ego will come forward and say, oh, well, this is really nice. There's, 25 people here today. Oh, maybe next week it could be 30. Or maybe I want it to be fewer. The mind is always working to say, how can I make this better? Different somehow. So we grasp. And then we buy a book that tells us how to do that, even better. But the ego knows how to grasp. It doesn't need a book. The ego knows exactly how to grasp. It says, just take hold of the thing. But then there is a percentage of time, there is a percentage of people, I should say, that some portion of the time, they understand the difference between grasping at things that they think are going to make them happy, but they're not sure what that means, and working diligently to manifest surrender, peace, goodness. But here's the thing about that. You do not need to manifest peace. You do not need to manifest goodness. You need to be those things. So what you do need to manifest is the courage within yourself to be something other than the norm. And that's what Krishnamurti is saying. He's saying it is not a sign of health for you to go along, for you to buy the latest self-help book. It is not a sign of health. What is a sign of health is for you to be the goodness, to be the peace, to be the courage, to embrace the compassion. That is a sign of health. And even in Ayurveda, the sister science of yoga, has this whole definition of health, and it culminates in the statement of positive mind and spirit, uplifted mind and spirit, a mind and a spirit that is focused on goodness only. So unless you are practicing that, you are not healthy. That's a lot to think about. No. So how do we stop the suffering then? Stop grasping. How do we stop feeling hopelessly broken in comparison to this human ideal of perfection? Stop grasping at it. Stop grasping at the ideal of perfection, and stop grasping at the concept of being broken as a human. Stop grasping. Be who you are. Meet every single thing that comes your way. Like the leaf embraces falling off the tree. That big, beautiful sycamore that's out there right now, she's going to be bare pretty soon. because it's fall. Boy, is it fall. She changed in one day, man. Yeah. Those leaves are all going to fall off of that tree, and she's going to be left naked to nature. And not one of those leaves will say, "Put me back. Give me my greenness." No. They'll just fall in a beautiful cascade of golden tans and browns. And they'll fall upon the earth where they will dry into dust. And some will be carried away by the rain. And some will merge with the earth and create a very fertile ground for something to grow. Doesn't that make you feel good? Why are you different? Why am I different from that beauty? We're not. We just like it better when it's over there. Thoughts, questions, ideas, concerns. Aslan.
That makes me think about when I was taking down the sunflower, I was like making the sunflowers into smaller pieces for the compost, and how, all season we've just been admiring them and watching them grow, and then now it came time for me to destroy them even more than they already were because they passed their point, and I was really okay with that because I knew that they were going to be turned into soil, and it was just an interesting experience looking back at their whole journey and how they're going to nourish the compost and then nourish more sunflowers.
Absolutely. Their energy goes on. They're not limited to a single form.
But I would look at them every day, and I had no problem just putting them in the compost. It's just,
You loved the seed, and we were all quite taken with the fact that they appeared out of nowhere. Well, from last year's harvest. So we love the seed, we love the sprout, we love the stalk, we love the buds, we love the blooms. We love when they start turning that kind of darker brownish color, and now we love taking them down, and we love composting them, and next year we'll love adding them to the garden. I'm sure I loved being a baby. Whatever a baby loves about being a baby, I don't remember. And I loved being a child, and I loved being a teenager, and I loved being in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s. I really love being in my 50s. Really love it. I'm a little attached, actually. Yeah. And hopefully I love being in my 60s, 70s, whatever it comes to, And hopefully when the time comes to take me down, I hope I love that too. And then I hope I love being reincorporated into the source. And then loving coming back again as fertilizer for some new growth.
Are you familiar with the children's toy that is like a snake and it's wooden and you can I kept thinking of that when you were saying about how, the brokenness doesn't make you broken because, if you look at that snake and you'd see all those little pieces that are connected, and if it was smooth it would be perfect and it wouldn't move.
Exactly.
But it's always changing.
And that's the point of the thing, right? Yeah, the point of the thing is that those fractures are right where they're meant to be. Yeah. Yeah. Lots to think about. Don't think too hard. Just be the love. Just be the love. Be the goodness. Be the change. Embrace the change. Embrace your brokenness.
Don't be afraid of the pain.
And don't be afraid of the pain.
It's not, at the end of the day, it's really not something to be afraid of. As somebody who's gone through a lot of personal pain, from a very young age to even now. If you learn through, and it's your practices that'll help you, your meditation, your yoga, that'll give you that space of mind that'll let you look at pain as a dear old friend rather than an enemy. And once you're able to face it with that equanimity, you find you grasp less because you're not looking outward to desperately fill that 3 a.m. empty hole that you have, where you feel like nothing will ever make that need go away.
Nothing outside of me will ever make that need go away. And that calls us to ask ourselves, then what kind of self-care do I have in place so that I myself can nurture myself, can hold myself, and can love myself, accept myself, and fill that void with something that is more consistent and more meaningful, really. Yeah, absolutely. So as you kind of go about your day today, I invite you to ask yourself that question. When you are in pain, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever, what kind of self-care do you have in place to address that pain? Or are you just looking at it like a curse? Like something that you got to push out of the way? Make your way through. Yeah, don't forget the crocodile's waiting for you. You cannot push your way through anything. It will follow you. It's a great predator that way. What kind of self-care do you have in place? And then put some there if you don't. Yeah. So let's sit up nice and tall and close the eyes. And with the eyes closed, place the left hand palm face up on the left knee and the right hand palm face forward in front of the right shoulder. Taking a breath in and a breath out. And repeating, I am.
I am
Broken.
broken.
I am complete
I am complete
in my brokenness.
in my brokenness.
I will grow.
I will grow.
I will change.
I will change.
I will be
I will be
what I am meant to be.
what I am meant to be.
And together we'll lift our voices in one beautiful Om. Take a nice breath in. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere find peace, love, light, and happiness. May all beings know their oneness. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste. So good to gather with each and every one of you today. Thank you so much to our retreat attendees who have spent the weekend with us, just kind of working with the brokenness, Thank you so much to our visitors today, the ones who keep coming back, keep learning more, keep investigating. Thank you so much to Devi and Priya and to Skip, who is not here right now, for being here to share the wealth of your wisdom and your experience with our retreat attendees this weekend. Thank you so much to Akhilandeshwari for showing us how to sit on a crocodile.
Most importantly, thank you, Sudha, for being a shining beacon.
I'm so honored to be able to just share this space with everybody. Every retreat, every class, I learn as much as I teach. I learn more, And I have to say thank you to my beloved because he's just my beloved, you know. And please send him prayers as he's going through a journey of a lifetime right now. Yeah. And enjoy your day. Enjoy some wonderful food. Kirtan is at 12:30 in here for those who are going to stay. For those who are in the retreat in Devi and Priya also, we'd like to take a picture up on the stage of the group of us together. So if we could have somebody take the picture for us, that would be really well. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Enjoy. Namaste.
Do I do it